Hello and welcome back to this course of videos on MongoDB. In this video we'll be looking at backing up and restoring your databases in MongoDB. Now the first thing I'm going to do is open up a command prompt and run my MongoDB executable to get the server running. Then I am going to open up my RoboMongo GUI. The shoe store database is a database that we are going to be backing up and then restoring. So in order to back up our database, we need to run a particular command, which is an executable file in Windows, which is called MongoDump. Now, to find this MongoDump executable, and this is Windows, like I said, I go to my C drive, I go to Program Files, I go to MongoDB Server 3.4, that's the version, and the bin file. Now this, you may have seen a couple of these before. MongoEXE is the CLI program we use for interacting with the Mongo database, and here is the MongoD command that I ran at the start of the lesson. But the one that we actually want to run is this MongoDump. Now, in order to run this MongoDump, we can't run it as we did when I ran MongoD from the command prompt. MongoD is actually in my path variable for Windows, so I can run it from anywhere in Windows. However, in order to run my MongoDump executable, we actually need to navigate there. So I'm going to copy this, and then I'm actually going to open up a separate command prompt because we have to open up our command prompt as an administrator. So I'm going to CD to that location where my Mongo was installed, where my binary files are, and just to double check that we are in the correct folder, I will actually, it's dir. Yeah, ls is the Linux way of doing it. So you can see I have all my files in here, including my mongodump.exe. So I'm going to run my MongoDump command here, and I'm going to add some extra parameters here, --db, because I want to tell it which database I want to dump, and database name here is shoe store. So I'm going to pass in shoe store, and then I am going to hit enter. And you can see it's written. It's actually it's been successful. Now, if I go back to my binary folder, you can see it's added this extra folder here. It's actually created this folder for us, this dump folder. If we go in here, it's named it shoe store, and if you drill in, you can actually see for each of the three collections that I have in my database, we have a BSON file and a JSON metadata file. So that's interesting because we said in the lessons earlier that Mongo stores collections using a derivative of JSON called BSON, which is binary JSON. So here are the actual BSON files themselves that it's stored for our backup. Now, so what I'm actually going to do now is we're going to restore. So first thing I'm going to do is just to drop this database, our shoe store database, so we can restore it. So now I'm going to go back to my administrator command here, and I'm going to, again, instead of running my MongoDump, I'm actually going to run this one here, Mongo restore exe. It's in the same folder. I could also show it to you in, if I go back to here, you can see it's here as well, this exe file. So back to my administrator, I'm going to run my Mongo restore command. Again, I have to pass it the parameter db to tell it which database I want to restore, and a second parameter that I need to pass is the folder in which our backup files are stored. Now, if you remember, it's going to be a relative location that I'm giving it relative to the current binary bin file that I'm currently in, and it's in dump and shoestore. That's where my files are. So I need to actually pass that by saying not dump and shoestore. So now Mongo Store has all the information it needs. I'm going to run this, and you can see it's finished restoring. If I go back to my RoboMongo and I refresh, you can see our good old shoestore database is back with all its necessary collections. Okay, so let's do exactly the same thing on the MySQL side. I am just going to connect to MySQL Workbench, and you'll see it's the shoestore database that we want to connect to. Now, in order to run the SQL backup, is very similar to the Mongo dump. If you remember, we navigated with Mongo to the binary folder where the Mongo files were installed. We have to do the same with MySQL. So I go to MySQL Server 5.7, which is a version, and then the bin file, exactly the same as with Mongo. And again, very similar to Mongo. Here we have a MySQL dump executable file. If you remember, on the Mongo side, it was MongoDump executable file. So great similarities there. And again, same with as it was with Mongo, I'm going to copy this file to the binary folder. I am going to open up a command prompt. I'm going to cd to that particular folder. Just double check I'm in, it's not ls, it's dir because we're Windows. And you can see, yes, my MySQL dump executable file is there. I am going to run the MySQL dump executable. I need to pass a few parameters. First of all, give it the underscore user, which is root, sorry, not underscore, dash user, root, dash p. I'm not going to give the password. I'm going to let it prompt me for the password. I need to give the name of the database that I want to back up or dump, which is shoestore. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this greater than sign. Now, what this greater than sign means is I want to pipe out the data from the shoestore database out to some other location. And the location that I want to pipe to is I've already created a folder called backup on my C drive, and I want the file to be called backup.sql. Now, if I run this, it's going to prompt me for my password, and it didn't actually tell me anything, but that's no news is good news with this, and that successfully worked. I'm going to go back to my C drive, to my backup folder, and you can see we've got backup.sql. If I open this with Notepad, you can see this is a very different approach to backing up to Mongo. Mongo, if you remember, gave us, for each collection, it gave us a BSON file and a JSON metadata file. Here, MySQL has just given us all of the SQL language, all of the SQL required to create our database. So it's quite a different approach with MySQL. So we now want to back this up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to MySQL Workbench, and I'm just going to create a new database schema for us to back up into. I'm going to call this database schema backup and just apply that. You see it's very simple schema, create schema backup, apply this. You can see we now have our new backup database, but we have no tables in there. So let's fix that. I'm going to go back to my command prompt, and now this time so we piped the data out here to this location, and now we want to pipe it back from this location to here. Not to the ShoeStore database, but to our backup database. But we're piping it in rather than piping it out. Now, we don't use MySQL dump, obviously, and interestingly, we just use the MySQL command. The same MySQL executable that we use to actually connect to MySQL in the first place. So, again, -u to provide your user, I am root, and -p for my password, I'll leave it blank. And I'll put the database name. Now, if I could just run this here, and just as before, it would log in to, and it would connect to MySQL on that particular database. And we can show we are in our particular backup database by running show tables. It gives empty set. You can see there are no tables in our backup database. But I'm just going to exit out. We don't want to run the regular logging command here. We're going to run that regular logging command, but add something to the end. And here's that pipe again, but instead of piping out as we were up here, we are piping back in to the backup database. And where do we want to pipe from? We want to pipe from our backup file in our backup folder, or backup.sql. So look here, we're piping from our backup.sql file into our new backup database, rather than before where we were piping from our ShoeStore database out to our backup SQL file. So if I run this now, it's going to prompt me for my password, and you can see there, no news is good news again with SQL. That's worked successfully. Now if we go back to MySQL Workbench and we refresh the database, you can see that we now have our tables that were originally from our ShoeStore database in our backup database here. So I hope that gives you a good understanding of backing up and restoring databases in both MongoDB and MySQL. I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson.